Billionaire's mom discovers incredible love, how 3 life-changing moments exposed hidden strengths. In a bustling suburban neighborhood where sidewalks echoed with laughter and dreams fluttered through the air like fallen leaves, Grace Holloway stood tall. At 58, she was a retired schoolteacher, a nurturing spirit who had spent her life uplifting others. Her modest home felt warm and inviting, filled with memories and kindness. Yet, something gnawed at her heart. Her son, Ryan, had become a self-made billionaire, dazzling the world with his wealth. While she beamed with pride, the chasm between their worlds felt wide. Wealth brought scrutiny, and Grace found herself longing for the community values she had instilled in him: hard work, compassion, and loyalty. It was a Friday when their quaint suburb shook beneath the weight of urgent news. Mr. Thompson, their elderly neighbor, faced eviction due to skyrocketing rent prices. Panic surged as neighbors murmured like storm clouds overhead. Grace felt the determination ignite within her. She rallied the community, igniting a movement to help Mr. Thompson. As she organized meetings, collected signatures, and pounded the pavement with her neighbors, a flicker of hope illuminated their spirits. Yet Ryan, with his skyscraper dreams and a bank account bloated with zeros, offered a different solution. "Mom, let me just donate the money. This can be fixed easily," he interjected during a tense family dinner. Her heart sank. "No, Ryan. This isn't just about cash. We need to show up, to stand together," she replied, her voice tinged with frustration. The clash of their values spilled into the open, tension hanging like a heavy fog. At the local coffee shop, Grace encountered her first pivotal moment. An Army veteran sat alone, his vacant eyes a reflection of the battles fought within. She approached him, her heart aching for connection. "Hey there, how are you holding up?" she asked. His story spilled out, layers of trauma and isolation falling away. As Grace listened, a warmth blossomed. "You're not alone in this," she whispered, igniting a spark of hope that twinkled in his eyes. It reminded her of the power of genuine connection. A few days later at the community center, a weary single mother caught Grace's attention. Juggling 2 jobs and her children, she looked like a candle burning at both ends. Grace didn't just listen, she organized a tutoring program to lend a hand. Helping those in need was in her blood, just as much as it was the laughter that filled her home. Ryan watched, but his admiration felt distant, shrouded in confusion. Then came the family reunion, where laughter turned to nostalgia. Relatives shared tales of their upbringing, the same values that birthed Grace's hope. Ryan began to feel the unsettling hollowness of his life, filled with fleeting relationships devoid of depth. Could he find meaning in the simpler connections that his mother so cherished? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the coalition fought against a sudden legal battle threatening their efforts to help Mr. Thompson, the stakes surged. Ryan found himself at a crossroad. Should he wield his wealth to fix everything with ease or embrace the labor of love that Grace had championed? Emotions tumbled, unspoken words hung in the air, and the house filled with a palpable tension. Could Ryan unearth the value of community? Just as he was about to choose between fixing problems with money or joining his mother in her relentless fight for connection, readers are left hanging, anxious for what he would decide. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm orange glow over their suburban community, Grace stood at the kitchen window, staring out into the street. The occasional laughter of children playing outside tugged at her spirit, bringing a bittersweet smile to her lips. She felt the weight of the world on her shoulders, especially with Mr. Thompson's eviction notice looming over their heads like a dark cloud. Ryan was in the living room, staring at his phone, but Grace sensed he was miles away from pressing matters. She turned away from the window, taking a moment to collect her thoughts. The tension from dinner still hung heavy in the air, and she knew they had to talk. She walked into the living room, where Ryan's hand scrolled through a sea of emails and updates, still tethered to his high-stakes world. "Ryan," she began softly. His head lifted, and for a moment, their eyes locked, a mix of love and unspoken frustration swirling between them. "Can we talk about Mr. Thompson?" "Mom, I think you're making this harder than it needs to be," he replied, setting his phone down. "I can just write a check, and this will all go away." His tone was calm, but Grace felt the undercurrent of impatience. "It's not about the money. Don't you see that? This is about community, about people coming together. You need to understand." Ryan sighed, running a hand through his hair. Clark, a man who lived in transactions and business deals, couldn't quite grasp the emotional layers his mother was fighting for. "But what if it doesn't work out, Mom? What if we just fail? Then we keep trying." She shot back. "Life isn't about winning every time, Ryan. It's about standing up for each other, struggling together." Silence wrapped around them, weighed down by a lifetime of unshared beliefs. Grace could feel the ache in her heart deepen, a longing to bridge that widening gap between them. "Why does it matter so much to you?" he asked, dropping his gaze. "Why can't you just accept that I want to help in my way?" "Because your way feels empty to me," she whispered, fighting back the surge of tears. "I raised you to see the beauty in connections, in the small moments that matter the most, not just the quick fixes." He looked up, his blue eyes clouded with conflict. "You think I don't care?" "No, I just think you see the world differently now. And I'm worried you're losing touch of what really matters," she said, her voice trembling. As Ryan stared at the ground, something shifted. He looked up, eyes wide as if he had just awoken from a long sleep. I want to understand," he admitted slowly. A spark of hope flickered within Grace. "Then come with me. Meet Mr. Thompson. Let us help him together. You'll see it's more than just saving him from eviction, it's about showing him he's not alone." For the first time in a long while, Ryan hesitated. He stepped back, trying to grasp the enormity of her request. He felt drawn to the idea, yet the doubts clawed at him. Did he have the courage to step outside his bubble, away from his world of glimmering skyscrapers and opportunities? Could he truly embrace this power of connection his mother spoke of? As Grace stepped forward, the hope radiating from her filled the space. "It's not too late, son. Just try." Just then, the doorbell rang, interrupting their moment. Grace's heart raced with anticipation. Who could it be? As she opened the door, the unexpected presence of a familiar face stunned her. Standing there was Mr. Thompson, frail yet determined, holding a piece of paper. "I think we need to talk," he declared, his voice steady but his hands trembling slightly. What could he possibly have to say? Grace's stomach twisted in knots. Was this the moment everything changed? Or just the beginning of a deeper challenge? Grace's breath caught in her throat as she stood frozen at the door, her heart racing. Mr. Thompson seemed a small, fragile silhouette against the setting sun, but his presence was monumental. She invited him in, motioning towards the living room, hoping Ryan would rise to the occasion. "Thank you for coming, Mr. Thompson," she said, her voice steady yet laced with concern. The man shuffled in, glancing around the room as if taking inventory of a life he felt slipping away. "Grace, and Ryan," he began, addressing both of them, though his gaze fell solely on her. "I appreciate your willingness to talk. I've been wrestling with some decisions, but I can assure you, this isn't easy for me." Ryan leaned back in his chair, arms crossed, watching the older man. Grace could feel the tension in the air, heavy and palpable. She stepped closer to Mr. Thompson, her hand reaching out instinctively. "You're not alone in this. We want to find a way to help you." He looked from her hand to her eyes, searching for sincerity. I just got this notice today." He unfolded the crumpled paper, revealing the eviction notice, and placed it on the table in front of them. It's official now, and I'm scared. This place has been my home for years. Ryan shifted uncomfortably, the weight of his mother's idealism clashing with the cold realities of life. But, we could talk to a lawyer or something, he started, but Mr. Thompson interrupted gently. Ryan, it's more than just legalities. It's a home, my memories are here, and I don't have anyone else. I thought I could find a solution on my own, but he paused, the cracks in his voice revealing the emotion raw beneath the surface. I shouldn't have to fight this alone. Grace was struck by the pain in Mr. Thompson's voice. The small things they so often took for granted felt monumental in this moment. Here was a man whose life was etched into these walls, and he was about to lose it all. Her heart swelled with empathy, igniting her determination to do something, to make Ryan truly understand. Ryan, this is what I meant about community, she said firmly. It's about stepping in for each other, even when it's uncomfortable. Can't you see? It's so much more than just writing a check. Mr. Thompson nodded slowly. I need your support, I need us to come together. Ryan clenched his jaw, caught in the balance between his mother's hopes and the fears clouding his heart. He glanced at Mr. Thompson, who looked both hopeful and fragile, and then back to his mother, whose eyes were pleading. He inhaled deeply, wrestling with the weight of responsibility. I want to help, he began, his voice quavering slightly. But it's like you said, I only know one way to handle things. I don't even know where to start. What do I do? What do we do? Grace stepped closer, her hand finding Ryan's arm. We start by understanding and listening. By asking Mr. Thompson what he needs, not just jumping to what we think is best. There was a hesitation lingering in a silence that felt electric. Mr. Thompson straightened, his determination returning. Honestly? I need help packing, finding a new place, understanding my options. And a little companionship wouldn't hurt either. Grace smiled softly, recognizing the tiny spark of understanding igniting between the two of them. Then that's what we'll do. We'll help you pack this weekend, and we'll talk to the neighbors. Maybe they have ideas. The shift in Ryan was almost palpable. His breathing steadied as he turned toward Mr. Thompson, his expression softening. Okay, he said finally. Let us do it together. The three of them shared a moment of quiet understanding, a bridge slowly being built over the chasm of fear and uncertainty, but just as they began to discuss their next steps, a loud crash echoed from the kitchen. Grace's heart sank as she turned sharply towards the sound. What had happened now? Mom! Ryan exclaimed, his eyes wide, concern flooding his features. Suddenly, everything felt like it was about to change all over again. What challenge awaited them next? Grace's mind raced as she reacted to the sound. Panic settled in her stomach, a cold twist that tightened her chest. She darted toward the kitchen, her feet moving faster than her thoughts. Ryan followed closely behind, his face etched with worry. Mr. Thompson lagged a step back, a look of confusion and concern crossing his features. What now? Grace muttered under her breath. She rounded the corner, her heart pounding as she stepped into the kitchen. There, on the floor, lay a shattered jar of spaghetti sauce, the crimson contents oozing across the tiles like an unwelcome reminder of chaos. A chair sat tipped over, the aftershock of whatever mishap had just occurred. But more alarming than the mess was the figure trembling in front of it. Her elderly neighbor, Mrs. Carpenter, was kneeling on the floor, bewildered and startled. Mrs. Carpenter. Grace rushed over, kneeling beside her. What happened? Oh, dear. I tripped over the rug. The older woman replied, her voice shaky but her spirit still intact. I didn't mean to intrude. I thought I'd bring you over some of my famous scones. Grace's heart softened. Here was this quirky neighbor, always bringing goodies and brightening their days, now looking vulnerable in a puddle of sauce. Let us get you up, she said gently, offering her hand to help Mrs. Carpenter rise. Ryan knelt down as well, his previous worries fading as he focused on the task at hand. He grabbed a paper towel and began to clean the mess, not wanting anyone to witness his discomfort with elderly care. The clattering of the chair and the broken glass now seemed trivial compared to the kind face he had known for years. "Oh, you're so sweet, both of you," Mrs. Carpenter said, her eyes sparkled with gratitude. "You're like family. I just wanted to make sure you had a good meal while you helped Mr. Thompson." Ryan exchanged a glance with Grace, a thread of understanding stitching itself together. "Thank you, Mrs. Carpenter, but right now, you're the one we need to help," he said gently, and together they helped her back on her feet. As they got her seated at the kitchen table, with a small plate of scones before her, Grace felt a flicker of realization. Their community was made up of people like Mrs. Carpenter, imperfections and all, helping each other in times of crisis just as they were about to do for Mr. Thompson. "Maybe this is what we should focus on," Grace said, looking at Ryan. "We're not just helping Mr. Thompson. We're building a community here, one small act at a time. It's not just about us, it's about everyone. We can all help each other." Ryan nodded slowly, lights flickering in his eyes as he absorbed her words. "Yeah, I see that now. It feels good," he admitted, a hint of a smile creeping in. But just as Grace thought they had reached a moment of clarity, an uneasy knock sounded at the back door, sharp and insistent. The sound felt different, loaded with urgency. Grace instinctively tensed, exchanging worried glances with Ryan and Mr. Thompson. "Who could that be?" Ryan whispered, his earlier determination giving way to another wave of uncertainty. "I don't know," Grace breathed, her heart pounding again. She moved toward the door, the sudden pressure of anticipation thick in the air. This was a moment that could change everything. As she reached for the doorknob, her heart raced in sync with her thoughts. What awaited her on the other side? Would it be a blessing or a new challenge, unexpected yet vital? Grace held her breath, a tremor of apprehension coursing through her veins as she swung open the door wide. The door creaked open, revealing a tall figure silhouetted against the fading light. A man stood there, disheveled and breathing heavily. His eyes darted around, finally settling on Grace. "I'm sorry to intrude, but I need help," he stammered, his voice laced with urgency. Grace's heart skipped a beat. How could someone look so lost yet so desperate at the same time? "What's wrong?" she asked, stepping aside to let him in, her instincts overriding her caution. I got in a car accident just down the street. It's not my car, I'm borrowing it for a friend, and I don't know what to do," he blurted, panic creeping into his tone. "I think someone may be hurt." Ryan moved closer, eyes narrowing as he assessed the situation. "Where's the car? Do we need to call an ambulance?" His protectiveness kicked in, a tangible tension filling the air. The man raked his fingers through his hair, disheveled and anxious. "It's just a few blocks down, but I couldn't leave her, she's still in there. I have to make sure she's okay," he rasped, tears brimming in his eyes. Demar. Thompson shifted uneasily on the sidelines, trying to absorb the drama unfurling before him. Grace felt a tug at her heart. How awful it must be for this stranger to bear such a heavy load. She felt compelled to act, a fire igniting within her. "Okay, we'll help you," she declared, her voice steady. "Just show us where the car is." The man hesitated, glancing back towards the door, the fear evident on his face. "But what if I didn't do anything?" "It doesn't matter," Ryan chimed in. "What matters is that we check on the person who may need us right now." There was a firmness in his voice that Grace hadn't heard before, a courage ignited by urgency. They quickly grabbed their jackets, and as they rushed out the back door, Grace felt an odd sense of camaraderie swelling between them. The trio, two friends united by a common cause and a stranger who desperately sought redemption. Outside, the evening air was cool, almost brisk, stirring excitement in her chest as they hurried through the neighborhood. The fading light outlined the contours of the houses, their warm interiors now reflecting what felt like the world's weight outside. "What's your name?" Grace asked as they walked together, the man's shoulders relaxing slightly as he realized they were in this with him. Ethan, he responded, his voice steadier now. Thank you, really. I didn't know who else to turn to. Grace caught Ryan's eye, and they exchanged a silent understanding. It was moments like this that mattered. They were coming together, strangers bound by the same thread of humanity. When they reached the scene, a small crowd had already gathered. Dimitri, the local mechanic, stood near the front, his hands on his hips and frowning. What happened? He called out, scanning the area. Ethan stepped forward, eyes wide. I just need to make sure she's okay. A paramedic was attending to a young woman lying on the ground, and a chill coursed through Grace as she witnessed the scene. The reality of the situation hit her hard. This was no minor incident, this was life or death. Ethan stood frozen, remorse filling his eyes as he watched the paramedics work. Grace felt a sense of urgency blooming within her again. This was their moment to help, to be more than just bystanders. Ethan, they need your help too, Grace said, placing a firm hand on his shoulder. You have to trust them. It's not just about what you did, it's about what you can do. You can be part of this. His gaze slowly shifted from the ground to her eyes. Something changed. You're right, he admitted, determination slowly replacing despair. The atmosphere was tense, heavy with unspoken fears and hopes. Grace's heart pounded as she wondered how this moment would resolve for Ethan, for the woman on the ground, and for herself. Would they emerge stronger from this? But before she could dig deeper into those thoughts, another loud crash echoed through the air, sending a jolt through the crowd. What now? Ryan's voice held a mix of dread and curiosity. And as Grace turned to see where the sound had come from, she felt that familiar twist in her stomach return, wondering if this new chaos would bring even more challenges or perhaps unexpected bonds. The crowd shifted, eyes darting toward the source of the crash. Grace strained to catch a glimpse, her heart racing in sync with the chaos surrounding them. Panic began to ripple through the bystanders, the tension thickening the air. What did we just hear? Dimitri asked, his frown deepening. Ethan, still reeling from the accident, squinted in the direction of the noise. I don't know. His voice cracked, revealing the frayed edges of his composure. Stay close, Ryan said firmly, grabbing Grace's hand tightly as if anchoring her amid the storm swirling around them. They took a cautious step forward, pressing through the gathering crowd. Just then, a woman burst from the shadows of an alley, glaring at the scene in a frenzy. Her eyes searched for something or someone. No, no, no. She screamed, drawing everyone's attention. Not again. Not again. Her voice trembled, raw with desperation. Who is that? Grace whispered to Ryan, her heart pounding. She could feel the frantic energy surging through the crowd, like a live wire ready to snap. I think that's the driver of the other car, Ryan responded, glancing at Ethan, whose face suddenly paled. What do we do? Ethan asked, voice wavering. The woman sprinted towards the vehicle, a crumpled mess against the curb. The crass sound of metal grinding against metal echoed in Grace's mind, a reminder of the harsh reality they faced. She could see the paramedics still focused on the young woman on the ground, but now the atmosphere magnified, fueled by heightened emotions and raw fears. Let her through. A paramedic shouted, as they battled the swelling crowd to remain focused. Ethan froze, pain in his eyes as he watched the chaos unfold. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. I didn't mean to hurt anyone. His hands trembled as he pressed them against his face. In that moment, Grace felt a wave of compassion wash over her. Ethan, she urged, moving closer to him. You can't blame yourself for this. You've got to stay strong. There are people who need you right now. But he shook his head, and tears fell unchecked. How can I be strong when I've caused this? Before Grace could respond, the woman charged past them and barreled towards the paramedics. What has happened? Is she okay? Please, her voice broke, and Grace's heart ached at the sound. The paramedics, trying to manage the situation, began to shout directions again as they focused on stabilizing the young woman. The scene morphed into chaos, emotions flaring up higher than the gathering clouds above them. "I need to get involved," Ethan declared suddenly, the glimpse of resolve shimmering through his sorrow. "I can't just stand here." Grace took a step back, a mixture of admiration and dread surging through her. "Are you sure, Ethan? You need to be cautious." He nodded, determination lighting up his gaze amidst the overwhelming shadows of fear. "I owe it to her. I owe it to myself." As Ethan stepped towards the unfolding crisis, Ryan leaned in close to Grace. This could change everything for him whether he realizes it or not. Grace felt a swell of pride for Ethan, yet dread coiled in her stomach. They too were on the verge of transformation, standing on the cusp of a decision that could forever alter their lives, but just as the new chapter opened for Ethan, another sound erupted from behind them, a desperate scream that pierced the air. "Help! We need more help!" The crowd gasped, awakening an unexpected fear in Grace. She turned her head sharply, bracing herself for whatever was to come next. What awaited them in that moment of crisis? Would they rise together, bonded by chaos, or would the weight of despair begin to pull them apart? The clamor in the crowd intensified, drowning out the thudding of Grace's heart. She turned, eyes wide, scanning for the source of that piercing scream. Each anxious face around her mirrored her own turmoil, capturing the gravity of the situation gripping them all. Ethan stood firm, his expression a blend of fear and newfound determination. As he pushed through the crowd, Grace saw the muscles in his jaw tighten. He was moving forward as if propelled by something grander than himself. "Ethan, wait!" She called out, but the rush of adrenaline surging through him drowned out her voice. He was on a mission now, driven by guilt and the desperate need to make things right. Ryan squeezed Grace's hand tighter. "We can't just stand here. We need to stick together." He sounded more protective than ever. The frantic energy of the crowd fluctuated like a tide, swaying left and right. Each time someone moved forward, others drew back, fear and compassion locked in a silent dance. Grace felt her stomach drop as she spotted the commotion at the vehicle where paramedics worked feverishly. Then, just as Ethan made his way across the street, she caught sight of something glinting in the gutter, a shard of glass, sharp and dangerous. "Ethan! Watch out!" But her heart dropped when she saw him slip. In an instant, a collective gasp erupted from the crowd. As time slowed momentarily, Grace's breath hitched in her throat, images flashing before her. She couldn't lose him here. She felt the world around her fade, leaving only that desperate moment. Ryan cursed under his breath, and she could see his muscles tense, prepared to spring as she was. Ethan stumbled but steadied himself against a parked car, shaking off the misstep. He shot a quick glance back, confusion and regret flashing across his features. There was a vulnerability in the way he stood, like a young boy trying to bear the weight of the world. "No more mistakes," he murmured to himself, pushing forward again. The urgency around them didn't let up. The woman who had first screamed now huddled near the paramedics, hands wringing together, desperation painted across her face. "Please. My sister, I can't lose her. She was just going to help someone else." Grace stepped closer to the scene, her chest tightening painfully. Thoughts spiraled within her how fragile life could be, how quickly everything could change. She glanced at Ryan, who remained steady beside her, fused in support. "What if we get involved?" she asked him softly, her instincts battling against the pull of fear. "Can we help?" "There's not much we can do, Grace. We aren't trained like they are." Ryan's eyes searched hers, raw with worry. "But we can be here. We can offer support." Gathering her courage, she nodded. Ethan reached the paramedics, determination solidifying into resolve. "What can I do? Please, let me help." The woman turned toward him, tears streaking her dirt-smeared face. "Stay with her. Talk to her. Don't let her go." Grace's heart swelled as Ethan rushed forward, kneeling beside the injured girl. The urgency in his actions transformed him, shedding the layers of guilt that had weighed him down. A sense of unity washed over Grace, the collective spirit of the crowd nudging them toward a fragile bond. They were here, all of them, raw and exposed, living a shared moment defined by chaos. Just then, a distant sound echoed through the air, an approaching siren. Hope knotted itself in Grace's stomach, mixed with worry. Would help arrive in time to offer comfort? As she felt Ryan's hand squeeze hers, she turned back towards the unfolding scene. Would simply being there make a difference? The answer felt both close and painfully out of reach. Instinctively, she knew this moment was only the start. Somehow, they were all about to discover their strengths in the most unexpected way. What would happen when help finally arrived? Would they find solace in shared resilience, or were there deeper layers of this moment waiting to unravel? The siren grew louder, weaving through the chaos, bringing a promise of help. Grace's heart raced as she watched Ethan lean in closer to the injured girl, his face serious, an unspoken vow in his expression. The girl's eyelids fluttered, barely responding to his voice, but Ethan didn't falter. He spoke soft words, encouraging and soothing, trying to grab her attention as if he could pull her back from the edge. "Stay with me," he urged, the intensity washing over him like a wave. "Help is almost here, just keep breathing, okay?" The crowd seemed to shift, each person caught in their own small pocket of concern. Grace could see some offering prayers, others biting their lips in anticipation. Ryan's hand gripped hers tightly, and she took a deep breath, drawing strength from him. They were all caught in the same desperate moment, bound by a silent wish that everything would turn out okay. The paramedics arrived, their uniforms a brief flash of blue against the backdrop of startled faces. They moved quickly with practiced efficiency, ready to take control. One of them knelt beside Ethan, eyes sharp and focused. "You did well. Just keep talking to her," the medic said, voice steady. Ethan nodded, relief flooding his face, his mind still buzzing from the adrenaline. "Can you hear me?" Ethan coaxed the girl gently. "Help is here. You're going to be all right." But Grace could see that the girl wasn't fully present. Panic clawed at her throat as the medic pulled out equipment, swiftly assessing the situation, calling for additional support. It was all happening so fast, and she felt a swirling sense of helplessness rising in her chest. "She's not responding," the medic stated sharply, lifting his head to scan the crowd. "We need to clear the area to work." Ryan nudged Grace gently. "Let us step back. We can't do anything else here." But as they started to move away, another scream pierced through the air. A voice rang out from further back in the crowd, cutting through the tension like a knife. "No. Not her. She can't die." A mother, identical in her pain, fought against the arms of those trying to restrain her. The shaking desperation in her plea resonated with Grace deeply. It was the same fear that threatened to engulf her. Grace looked at Ryan, their fear mirrored in each other's eyes. "That's someone's sister, someone's daughter," she whispered, the rawness of the moment crashing into her like a wave. "Grace," Ryan said, his voice trembling slightly. We have to do something. Can't just stand by." Ethan glanced toward them, his face shadowed with worry. "You two, stay here. Help me keep her conscious until they're ready." He didn't wait for their answer, the urgency in his tone pushing them forward. Without thinking, Grace found herself moving closer again. "What can we do?" she asked, feeling the fire of determination grow stronger. "We can't just sit around and watch." "Keep talking," Ethan said, motioning to Ryan. "Help me keep her focused." Together, they leaned closer to the girl on the ground, the crowd around them a blur. Grace offered reassurance, a steady stream of words. "You're safe. We're here, just stay with us." As the paramedics worked, the world around them faded, leaving only the heartbeats of those around them, both fragile and unyielding. The siren's wailing softened to a distant thrum as hope surged in her chest. But just as she began to believe they could pull through, a flicker of movement drew her eyes across the crowd. Another figure emerged, pushing through the throng, a familiar silhouette. Grace. A voice rang out, sharp and panicked that it was him. She felt her pulse quicken. What was he doing here? Wait. Stop. An icy dread settled in Grace's stomach as she recognized the face behind the urgency, her stomach dropping at the implications. What storm was about to roll in? Would their fragile moment of connection withstand the approaching chaos, or would everything change in an instant? Grace. Ben's voice cut through the noise, desperation clawing at his words. He pushed through the throng, his eyes wild, searching for her like a lifeline in stormy waters. Every step he took seemed to amplify the chaos around them, and Grace felt a surge of conflicting feelings. Ben, what are you doing here? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The urgency in his eyes sent a chill down her spine. He reached her, breathless, scanning the scene. I heard there was an accident. I had to come. His gaze flickered to the girl on the ground, the paramedics in action. Is she? Not yet, Ryan interjected, grappling with how to process everything. But they're trying. We need to stay focused here. No, you don't understand. Ben blurted out, his feverish intensity drawing attention. I need to find out what happened. She shouldn't be here. The hollow thud of panic echoed in Grace's chest. What do you mean she shouldn't be here? She felt the ground shift under her. Anger mixed with disbelief. Why was Ben acting like this? Was all part of some larger picture? Did he know something she didn't? Please, Grace, he pleaded, eyes widening with urgency. I need to find her connection. She is connected to all of this. Just trust me. Trust you. Voices around them began to murmur, the tension ramping up. Grace's feelings twisted into a knot of confusion. How could he even think about connections right now? They were standing in the middle of chaos, in a moment hovering between life and death. Ethan stepped forward, protective angles in his jawline. We have to stay with the girl. All hands on deck, she may not have much time. He turned to Ryan and Grace. We keep her conscious. Focus on her. Not the outside drama. But Ben wasn't done. You don't understand, Ethan. This girl's life could be in danger not just from the accident. It goes deeper. He looked back at Grace, his expression fierce, begging for her belief. You have to listen to me. For the first time, a wave of doubt washed over Grace. Was there something more? Wouldn't they be better off caring for the girl rather than getting sucked into whatever tangled mess Ben was hinting at? Yet, a part of her wanted to believe him. Maybe there was a thread that could bind all this madness together. Ryan's grip tightened around Grace's hand, grounding her as she felt Ben's insistence wrapping around her mind. The urgency in his voice clashed with her instinct to protect the girl on the ground. Suddenly, a low gasp echoed from the crowd, drawing everyone's attention. The medic's voice cut through the air, louder this time as they yelled for more help. We need oxygen. Now. The moment hung thick with suspense. The word oxygen conjured images of struggle, a battle still at play. Grace's heart thundered. Turning back to the girl, she grasped the urgency. Stay with us, she urged, forcing her focus back to the injured girl. Hold on, please. We're all here. But Ben's eyes bore into her, unrelenting. You need to see the bigger picture, Grace. Something powerful is at stake. In that moment, she felt her reality quaking beneath her. Who was the girl really? Who was Ben now? And how was everything intertwined? Just then, the siren's wail heightened, a chaotic harmony playing out as if time bent under the pressure. Grace's heart raced, torn between the desperate need to stay connected with the girl and the turmoil brewing in Ben's gaze. What revelation could change everything? Would saving the girl mean unearthing hidden truths that could reshape their lives forever? With the stakes climbing higher, Grace knew one thing: everything was about to change. As the paramedics worked frantically over the injured girl, the world around Grace felt like it was teetering on the edge, ready to tip at any moment. Ethan leaned in, words pouring from his lips like a lifeline. "You're strong, just keep breathing." His voice wavered but held a quiet strength that reverberated through the crowd. Grace felt the warmth of connection pooling between them. She and Ryan were right there with him, holding on to that fragile thread of hope. The woman, frantic to reach her sister, strained against the hold of bystanders trying to keep her calm. "Please. Help her. She was just trying to save someone." Grace's heart sank at the raw plea. That could have been someone they loved. It made her feel the weight of their own vulnerabilities so sharply. She glanced at Ryan, whose expression was set with determination. Despite the chaos, their earlier understanding felt deeper now. They were merely instruments of a larger voice, echoing for compassion and connection. "Ben, we need to focus on helping here," Ryan said firmly, attempting to reassert calmness amidst the escalating panic. "This is not the time for whatever you're saying. We have to pull together." But Ben's eyes were wild, frantic. "You don't understand. The girl, she's part of something bigger." Grace's pulse quickened. What could he mean? Was it true? Did it even matter at this moment? "The girl needs us," she yelled back, urgency flowing in her voice, glancing to ensure Ethan hadn't lost his focus. Deep down, something shifted in Grace. She needed to keep it together, to stay present, to help this girl, and to figure out what it all meant. Perhaps it didn't need to make sense right now. They would find a way to navigate through the chaos together. Just as the tension peaked, the crowd parted before the arrival of another ambulance, lights flashing, siren blaring like a beacon of hope against the darkening sky. Paramedics poured from the vehicle, urgency reviving the atmosphere around them. Grace, Ryan, Ethan, and the distraught woman all watched, hearts entwined in this moment of collective desperation. "Make way," called one of the new paramedics, eyes surveying the scene with calm authority. "What do we have?" Grace could see Ethan straighten, his expression shifting from helplessness to a fierce resolve. "She needs oxygen. And a blanket, she's starting to go cold." The medic nodded, jumping into action alongside his team. Meanwhile, Grace felt Ryan's hand tighten around hers, assuring her that they were in this together. They would fight alongside each other, and they would not falter. The chaos began to settle, but a weight hung in the air. Grace glanced at Ben, his face a mosaic of emotions: fear, desperation, and a flicker of something she couldn't quite place. "Whatever connections you think are out there can wait," she said firmly, though the uncertainty in her own heart whispered doubts. "Right now, saving this girl is everything." Ben met her gaze, and in that glance, a silent understanding passed between them. No matter how they felt about the deeper web of connections, the truth stood bold: they were each other's support in the face of uncertainty. After what felt like an eternity, the medic turned back to the crowd, his tone urgent yet steady. "She's stable for now, but we need to get her to the hospital. Clear a path." As they lifted the girl onto a stretcher, Ethan's face glowed with relief, the burden of guilt beginning to lift. Just like that, from the depths of despair, he had found purpose. Thank you," he cried out to the medics. The woman beside him, overwhelmed in gratitude, collapsed into a friend's supportive arms, tears tracking down her cheeks as her fears transformed into gratitude. "She's going to be okay," Grace whispered to Ethan, then turned to Ryan, who smiled back, his distant confusion replaced with a quiet understanding. Time seemed to slow, every breath feeling like it counted in this moment, woven tightly into a tapestry of human connection. They were a community, crossed wires of lives entwined with both pain and promise. They stepped back. Ben took a breath, appearing clearer. "We need to talk later. About all this. It's not what you think. Please, just trust me." Grace took a moment to process. The grounding in her heart whispered that connections would emerge, not in flickers of chaos, but in quiet moments of vulnerability. Was it a promise of strength, or a challenge yet to be faced? "Trust is built," she replied softly, feeling Ryan beside her, rooted in the grounding warmth of the people around them. that was where hope blossomed. They had stood strong through storms of uncertainties, and in the clarity of crisis, they had forged a bond that felt like belonging. Grace's eyes twinkled with gratitude. This was an invitation, a glimmer of hope that sprouted amid fear. As evening fell, turning the sky into a canvas of colors, Grace realized the chasm that once sat silently between her and Ryan was narrowing. It would always be a journey, a climb through the landscapes of emotions where every stumble became a step towards grace. "Let us go home," she said finally, with a heart full of newfound hope and connection. Each step felt lighter as they walked side by side, for together they were a story still being written, filled with strength and love. Now, the world was waiting to unfold. This was just the beginning. Ready to dive deeper into the journey that could change everything for you? Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help others discover this transformation. Comment your reactions and feelings about the ending. Let's connect. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. They deserve this. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait not even one more second to share. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.